can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face.
Oh, I'm from Brooklyn.
Hey, guys, any?
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Northeast Professional Sports. Kind of a unique show where all your favorite Northeast Streaming Sports hosts, we kind of interview each other, talk about our teams, see what's going on in the world today. We're already up to 7 views. I love it. We just started already. They must like the song Last Night by the Marquis for all of you out there that didn't know what that
Or
song
maybe we learned something new today beforehand. Come on, let's go.
Pags, I don't
Give it to him.
I don't want to give any secrets, Pags. We don't want to give away any of our secrets here on the show. So let's get to the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a team that I know everybody maybe besides Pags would like to talk about today. But I know how Pags is. He'll get over it. He's ready to push on the next year. He's forget, whatever you got to do over there. But let's start with one of the greatest centers in the league, future Hall of Famer. Jason Kelce retires after that defeat against the Tampa
No, he did
Bay
not.
Buccaneers.
No, he did not.
He didn't retire.
He did not. So it got leaked that he was going to retire, and he may retire. You know, it's likely that he will retire. However, he said on his podcast this morning that if he's going to retire, he would like to do it the right way. There's a lot of people to thank. There's a lot of people that did this. It used to be that there were press conferences talking about retirement. And I think that he feels that if he's going to retire, he would like to do it that way because there is a lot of people that he has to thank in the process. However, in the process of that, I feel like that maybe, and there's an outside chance that he comes back for one more year. I feel like that this is the year he should retire. But I always say that players play 2 years too long. Next year would be the first year of that 2-year process. I think he would only stay for one. I think he understands that too. I think he may try to push the envelope a little bit longer and wait for his daughter to become of sports playing age.
All right. Okay.
And
hey, it's not. It's not like he's going to be any of the worse for next year. I mean, he might lose another quarter of a step or something, but it's not like he's going to lose a lot. He's still going to be one of the better centers in the league. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if he does really retire or not. Do you think that maybe if he retires, that his brother retires along with him? Do you think that maybe Travis Kelce next year, if suppose he makes a Super Bowl, suppose he doesn't, suppose that, listen, Travis Kelce is not what he was. There's no doubt about that. He's having a really rough year, really banged up. He's effective. I guess he still can be effective, but he's really not what he was, Pags. And I think everybody would agree, maybe not everyone, but I think for the most part, I think Travis Kelce may be a little bit farther gone as a tight end than Jason is as a center.
I would a little bit agree with that. I think that Travis Kelce has fallen off a tremendous amount this year. And I'll tell you, I'll just go back to, what was it? Mickey talking to Rocky saying women weaken legs. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's like the proper thing to say right here. I feel like that this is his first year with Taylor, and who knows how long it's going to last. But I'll be honest, I think he's going to come back for another year. I'm actually about 30% sure that Jason will be back for another year.
Well,
I was sure that he would be back up until the point, like if he won the Super Bowl, you retire. You lose the Super Bowl, you might retire. Losing in the first playoff game, I thought he'd come back up until what I saw at the end of the game. When he went back, he sat on the bench for like a good 5 minutes, just kind of watching a game that wasn't there. You know what I mean? He was by himself, and then watching him walk off the field. I saw like a very human Jason Kelsey, who, it looked like at that moment that he may have played his last game as an active Philadelphia Eagle. That being said, you get a day to think about it. You have a lot of still unfinished business, and I feel like that may be the case. So that being said, I think they both come back for one more year, and it is the goodbye tour for the Kelseys.
maybe it sounds about right. Let's welcome in CJ the Painkiller. It covers the Jets and everything. We'll of course get to some of the Jets news. There is some, believe it or not. Besides that, they're in the playoffs. Us and the Jets are not in the playoffs together. So besides that, we do have some news, and of course
We have the schedule of Aaron Rodgers going to go get his ayahuasca.
No, we do have him in the woods, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Also, with us tonight is the Sauce God himself, a big Buffalo Bills fan. Glad to have him aboard tonight to talk about a little bit about Bills.
Happy to be back on the show, and of course, happy to be here to discuss the Bills' victory over the Steelers, and also to give you guys a little bit of an update on the weather situation here in Western New York, as I am right outside of where the Bills play, and we are actually expected to get quite a bit more snow here in the next 24 hours, anywhere from a foot to 3 foot they're calling for. And then closer to where the Bills Stadium actually is, it's going to get hammered even more. So we're definitely going to see some more weather play a factor into this weekend's matchup against Kansas City. And I'll tell you what, though, I'm fired up about it. I'm ready to discuss it because for me, the last time that I really consider our matchup against Kansas City to be something that I talk about a lot is the 13 seconds divisional matchup in 2021. I've always had a salty taste in my mouth, and I've always had a salty taste in the fact that Kansas City had never had to come to our house in the playoffs, and it seems like for most of the years during the regular season we're in Kansas City. So now we get a chance to get a little bit of a revenge opportunity, maybe get us into the AFC Championship. So I'm excited for it.
That we will definitely get to, but I want to finish up with Tampa Bay and the Eagles. Listen, Pags, they didn't change their offense from when the Giants blitzed them every play. They blitzed them at the end of the game every play. Tampa Bay says, "Hey, that worked for the Giants, so let's try that too." And the defense didn't adjust. I'm used to seeing teams adjust at halftime, not waiting, not letting the whole game go by and then playing the same way that the second game in a row. I mean, that's kind of crazy, don't you think?
84% of the plays I heard, I think they didn't blitz on like 6 or 7 plays. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. First off, how is it that when do you go back to backyard football? When do you start to make that assessment? Like, hey, what they're calling ain't working. So let's scramble. Let's play the game. Let's play like we used to play, and let's see if we can make something happen. That was the issue. They weren't doing anything. It was,
yeah.
As much as I hate to say this, I feel like that their heart was gone. There was no heart in this game. I felt like a few people showed some heart. I saw the video of Dallas Goedert kind of yelling, "It hurts."
Devontae Smith too, he balled out.
Yeah, I mean, he did. I mean, there was some guys that are, that had it there. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. You know what I mean? There were some guys that were feisty, and they were pissed off about the fact. I feel like Jason Kelsey only puts it all out in the field. I don't think that he knows how to play another way. I think that he was getting manhandled all day long. But
isn't it kind of likely that Philadelphia probably just underestimated Tampa Bay?
No. I think that we're seeing the team that we've saw for the last 6 weeks. And the problem with that is that we all thought because they have so much more talent that they were going to be a different result. The problem was that they didn't do anything different. We still
Well,
ran the
we all
ball for
did.
5 yards a carry, and we still didn't run the ball.
I know.
Like
We listen. Not everybody thought that was going to happen, Jack. Most of the people that picked thought that Tampa Bay was going to actually win that game. We pretty much saw what happened with the Eagles building up to that. So not only didn't your defense, I mean your offense perform, Christ, you made Baker Mayfield look like a Hall of Famer. The defense, they were just cutting you up the middle. And that's, and that's what Mike
Well-
Evans dropping a couple balls that could have been touchdowns. I mean, they were right there. I mean, it was crazy to watch the once proud defense of the Eagles. And that was only a year ago when they led the league in sacks, and now they couldn't get to the quarterback.
Yeah. Matt Patricia obviously was not the answer for Sean Desai. Come to find out that he was a worse,
Yeah.
This is what happens when you try to change a defensive scheme in the middle of the season. So we learned
What
lessons.
happens when you try to take a defensive coordinator and make him an offensive coordinator and then back to defensive coordinator for different teams?
Exactly. So I mean, all of that really came out a mess. It's all a mess. So you have to learn from it. We were
Yes.
good enough in the first half of the season to make the playoffs, but you
Yes.
saw the colossal collapse. The last time we had a collapse like this, there was a guy named Richie Kotite at the helm who
I
also
remember.
didn't know how to do adjustments. The adjustments that would happen in the second half all came from Jim McMahon because he was
Yes.
on that team. So I remember that, and I was there for this. This is the second type of collapse that happened in my lifetime, similar to this.
Listen, I
So
agree.
you learn from this. You learn from this as a franchise. You learn from this.
Good evening, Joel Hunt, big supporter there at Military Broadcast and Radio. We're on there now also, at least the morning show is, and we're trying to get other people on there too. Great network over there. And the underdog story for Baker Mayfield is very nice. So let's get to the Bills. I mean, the Bills had a big win against Pittsburgh last week. Now comes their nemesis, right? I mean, they're going to go up and play the Kansas City Chiefs, who had got the best of them the last two times they played. And as Anthony said, hey, listen, they're coming to see us now. This is the first time that Patrick Mahomes, being a Chief, has gone and played an away playoff game. And the fans are going to be pumped. Anthony just told us there's going to be a lot of snow again. But, it's very interesting to me how similar these teams end up being by the end of the year, right? Josh Allen running with the ball. He's got Cook. Patrick Mahomes this year has to run with the ball. He's got Pacheco. His go-to receiver is Rice. And you got a go-to receiver for Allen, who mainly is Stephon Diggs. So they're very similar. And, what are your thoughts? I mean, what are you guys going to do different this time that you didn't do the last time you guys played, Anthony?
Well, number one, the last time we just made some stupid choices as far as coaching and as far as what the defense did. But I will tell you that Josh Allen brought everything into that last playoff match up against Kansas City. And Josh Allen typically is really good in the playoffs. But I'll tell you what is so different about this Bills offense now versus then, and even when we've played them in previous matchups in the regular season, is that Joe Brady's offense is not all about Josh Allen. It is about the other players that are around him, named James Cook, also named Khalil Shakir, also named Dalton Kincaid. Those guys have been so huge in their wins ever since they were 6-6. We thought that maybe Josh Allen had to play hero ball and he had to be Superman. And yes, at times he can make plays with his feet, which is something else that Joe Brady has also brought back out of his game. And I mean, you saw the 50-yard touchdown run that he had against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is the type of plays that make this offense electric and make Josh Allen one of these elite quarterbacks. And that's when you said these teams are similar by the end of the year. It's because of Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, the way that they can play the game of football and the many things that they can do at the quarterback position, their arm talent. But what I think that the Bills team right now has an advantage of is I really believe it's the secondary playmakers right now that are making all the world of a difference, and their defense. Their defense is deep. I mean, you have A.J. Klein, who's ready to go down to Key West with his family in an RV on Wednesday, and he leads the team in tackles on Monday. You know what I mean? Balin Spector comes in. Dorian Williams comes in. Those guys are are playing their hearts out because this is a well-coached defense. I mean, Sean McDermott as head coach is a primary defensive-minded guy, but I think this Bills offense has just found this rhythm with their run game and with the other playmakers outside of Stephon Diggs, because Stephon Diggs, as good as he is, he does command so much attention, but that opens up the door should we have Gabe Davis back this week too, which Gabe Davis, people don't always see how good he really is. It doesn't come always in the catches and the touchdowns. It comes in his run blocking ability and his ability to block in screen games too, because that's second to none. He's one of the best in the NFL at that. So I think this Bills team is ready. Now that you got Patrick Mahomes coming up here, it's all about you have to beat him in the playoffs. You beat him in the regular season. You've done that, but you have to beat him in the playoffs, and this is the perfect opportunity for this team to do that.
Sonia, if you can remember, remind me about the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator thing I want to talk about at the end of the show, because we were looking at offensive coordinators. Now the defensive coordinators are coming to the top as we get to the championship game. CJ, you haven't said anything yet, so I want to give you some.
And real quick question before you go switch off of Buffalo. Can I ask a quick question?
Sure,
With as much snow as you've had since these playoffs, is there any more likely to put a retractable dome on that stadium to keep the snow out? Not to change the fact.
The pressure is there.
Why?
Don't get me wrong, but I believe, because you have to understand that New York taxpayers are going to foot the bill for the stadium in its majority, and if you add the retractable dome on, that's also going to add up the price of that. But outside of that, the elements is something that makes the fan base what it really is. Terry Pagula, the owner of the Bills, came out and said that he loved the snowball celebrations. He loved that Bills Mafia was there to shovel out the stadium. We shovel out our own players from their own driveways, for crying out loud, without even being asked, because it's the city of good neighbors. So I think it just adds to the element, because I've always told people there are Bills fans and then there's Bills Mafia. Bills Mafia is the type of people that could sit in the freezing cold, even when their team is freaking losing, and still be a fan after that whole everything is said and done. So I think you have to keep that in Buffalo. It's part of what makes us us.
But also, wouldn't you think that with the retractable dome, again, you could keep it open for your games, but with a retractable dome, you could also possibly get a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
because they
that's
did it
the
in
other point
Minnesota
too,
where
that
it was
you make.
-4.
Because I do believe that's another reason you would want to add something like that, and you could also use it year round too for concerts, events like that, and you could also monetize yourself that way. I mean, it's a little disappointing that the option isn't there, but it does cover a decent amount of the seating and stuff like that, so it adds a little bit of a different dynamic. But we did have a Super Bowl in New Jersey not that long ago, from what I remember, and that was outdoors in the cold. So you never know.
They ain't going to do that in Buffalo, though. Come on, they're not going to give that risk a
it's
chance.
You're not going to be able to pull something like that off in Buffalo. Jersey was different because of the fact that they had so much. They had everything ready. They even had a contingency plan on top of the contingency plan on top of the contingency plan. All right, so they were ready.
CJ, let's get away from the stadiums. I don't care about the stadiums. Let's get back to the games and the players. So you being the AFC East, you've seen Josh Allen over the years, and Josh Allen has a knack to become Superman, which is good and bad, right? And if he's going to go revert back, we're Anthony and most of us are hoping he doesn't, but all of a sudden he starts putting the pressure on himself, feeling he can win the game himself, and starts throwing them passes that get intercepted, and we know he's done it in the past. If that happens again, then then Buffalo Bills are in a little bit of trouble, because I expect this to be a turnover game, and I expect that the special teams will have a big say in who wins this game.
Well, the main thing is Josh Allen can't play hero ball. One of the things that you've seen him do over these past couple of games that he's played is he's relying more upon the pieces around him. So he knows when he's got to be able to make a play with his legs. But as far as Josh maybe taking it upon himself to play hero ball during the course of the playoffs, I don't think he'll feel the need to unless Buffalo is down by like 21 points, because then you're talking about the pressure. You're talking about all kinds of just everything mounting on top of that kid's shoulders. Now, am I saying that he doesn't have the ability to play hero ball and dig the Bills out of a hole? Absolutely not. He is more than capable of being able to dig the Bills out of a hole. But there's a difference between being a hero and being reckless. And Josh Allen at times can be reckless. So we just need to hope that we're not going to see the reckless side of Josh Allen as opposed to the hero side of Josh Allen when you need that first down, or you need to get that touchdown, or you need to get into field goal range. So if he plays the way that he did against the Steelers for the rest of the playoffs, there is no excuse why the Buffalo Bills cannot make it to the Super Bowl this year.
But he's not much different than
we got a
Mahomes.
player who played.
True.
Let's introduce Jim Jeffcoat.
Jimmy!
Let's introduce him. Let's introduce Jim Jeffcoat. He was, also a former Buffalo Bill who actually played in that weather and in the snow and in the cold and all that good stuff. So Jim, we're discussing right now Josh Allen. Let's turn to the defense where what's going on. Buffalo's defense has really turned it on in maybe the last 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, but I think
the defensive backfields have played good. They're getting pressure on.
And I agree, but they're playing complementary football, their offense and defense. There are situations where the defense rises up in their offense, and that's what you have to do at this time of the year. Back to what you were saying, it's true on Josh Allen, but sometimes he has to take over the game just like Mahomes does. Those two are those type of players that can take over games. But you have to play within the scheme. You can't just, like you said, throw interceptions or force your things. If there's just like the long run that Josh Allen had, what was it, 51 yards?
It was 52 or 52 yards.
Yeah. So you would have to, if you have that opportunity, and the controversy, was he looking like he was going to slide? This dude is 6'5", 235, 240 pounds. And I mean,
he's a big man.
Yeah, he's a big man. And then you saw Miles Jack get in trouble for hitting him when he did slide. So those things. And he did take over the game at that point, but he's playing within the scheme. Brady has them playing within their scheme because if you remember at the last part of the season, he wasn't really throwing up significant numbers. It was their defense, like you said, and their running game.
I always call Josh Allen like the vanilla version of Cam Newton because he's the size and that run when he does it. It literally reminds me of Cam every single time.
Josh Allen's a little bit more accurate.
That's like there should have never have been called a penalty there. Never should.
I agree.
That guy pulled up. He pulled up. He hit him in the shoulder. It was and Josh jumping up and going, "Hey, where's the penalty?
Yeah.
Get the hell out of here!" That was such a.
He became a runner. He became a runner.
Well,
he was no longer
exactly, and he was running and bowling people over sometimes. All of a sudden slide. They're going to have to do something about that because literally it was held up. He literally held up.
Pags. First, I think we all can agree we can't compare Josh Allen to Cam Newton. Josh Allen was just a little bit more accurate than Cam Newton was. I mean, Cam Newton was lucky to throw 5 yards and hit the guy.
Yeah, but Cam Newton was a bad man.
Yeah, he was bad in his heyday. Let's be clear.
But he
made it to the Super Bowl. When has Josh Allen done that?
Please. Let's not do revisionist history here. Cam Newton was a very inaccurate quarterback. I mean, come on. I mean, he can run with the ball. Good for him. I mean, great.
But
Bobby Douglas could run.
Don't like nothing about the Panthers, past or present.
But to tell for what Jim was saying about the Bills playing complementary football is something that I talk about consistently. Is that sometimes their defense is the best offense. They let the Steelers come down the field and it's a goal line situation. And Kaiir Elam, who I've had the pleasure of actually interviewing, comes away with an interception. Those little plays right there, Taron Johnson with that little poke on George Pickens. Some people think it was a Bills Mafia snowball that actually hit the football and knocked it out.
It did look like a football, though.
Set up the opportunity for the offense. And when Josh Allen trusts the guys around him, they move the ball down the field.
Yeah.
They win games.
I tell you, Buffalo is a different place. If you've ever been in that stadium for a game on one of those cold, I saw guys sliding with no shirts on in the winter in snow. I thought these people have lost their minds.
Ryan Fitzpatrick a couple years ago in the postseason at the Patriots game was shirtless in the crowd, cheering Bills Mafia on. You gotta love it.
I was glad I was not there with all those snowballs flying, because whether they were happy or angry, the Bills were throwing snowballs, and all I could think was snowballs hurt.
Well, if they have ice.
Anyway, as far as that slide goes, Jack thinks that should be a penalty on the quarterback. If he's going to fake going out of bounds and keep running, he should be penalized. If he slides and he's not going to slide, he fake slide, he should get penalized, because you're going to penalize the defense for hitting him. So it should work both ways. So there, me and Jack do agree with Mac there. So let's talk a little bit about Pacheco versus Cook. What do you think, Anthony? What do you think is a better running back for that weather? And I know you don't be a homer here. I mean, do you think Pacheco's style is better or Cook's?
Pacheco is a different style of running back in the sense that he just runs the ball downhill. So that could be something that, is an advantage for Kansas City if Patrick Mahomes is not able to get it going in the passing game early. But what James Cook also provides a lot more of than Isaiah Pacheco is the ability to catch it out of the backfield or line up as a receiver and make plays that way. I mean, he's had a couple of drops that could have been touchdowns throughout the rest of the season too. So James Cook, I think in this weather, it just being able to do a couple of different things is going to be what makes him the better running back in this scenario. But I'll tell you, Isaiah Pacheco is going to be an absolute workhorse for Kansas City. That's what I'm expecting from them.
Yeah, I agree with that. Don't be silly, Keith. All right, the Lions are not going to the Super Bowl. Let's pull that back.
Really?
So anyway, let's
I don't know. You just said that right now. You just said that right now. I don't know.
That's why I was like, really? I
know
think they are.
Everyone here really thinks the Lions could beat San Francisco.
It could be the Lions in Texas.
No, I think Green Bay can beat San Francisco. This week, if San Francisco gets past this week, then Green Bay, then they'll win. They'll go to the Super Bowl. But if Green Bay beats them, because they're now rested for 3 weeks, you got to jump on them quick. They have to play the same type of game they played in Dallas. Get on the board fast, and make Brock Purdy play from behind. Every time Brock Purdy's had to play from behind, he has lost that game.
Listen,
he does have a
Jim said. Jim said that during the year, Jim has said everyone that plays San Francisco gets physically beat up. This is a very physical defense. Their linebackers are fast, their safeties and cornerbacks hit, and their defensive line puts a lot of pressure on.
And here's the point that I was making is, you see what happened with Dallas, what happened with Philadelphia, it happened in the linebacker core. You thought I was crazy when I said last week, Baltimore and San Francisco have the best linebackers, the two linebackers inside, because they can run and they can play in coverage, but they can hit you and they hurt you when they hit you. And that's what makes those successful. Now, watching Green Bay, they weren't bad at the linebacker core. They play a lot of zones. They don't play a lot of man, but they did some things that gave, obviously, the Cowboys trouble. And that's the thing. When you have linebackers in this day and age, everybody wants guys that can play in space. But when you have those down the hill like Warner and the other kid at San Francisco, and then you got Rohan Smith, I mean, you got real guys playing those. They make a difference. They make a big difference.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Rohan fast.
Don't forget
and then you see with Tampa Bay with Rashad White. You see these big, powerful linebackers. It's old school stuff, but these guys are good players.
I would agree with that. I would agree. So let's get to your favorite team, the team you went to 2 Super Bowls with. Jimmy Johnson was making these halftime speeches on air and getting people psyched up. Everyone except the Cowboys. So
yeah, we can't even find it on the disc that it was on to put on the computer.
You better play this game.
Yes, he was fired up, and he was the only one. So let's talk a little bit about the Cowboys. We texted a lot during the game, Jim. You were there, and we talked about that Quinn is gone. You said that at the beginning. The defense played terrible. Quinn is gone. And then by the end, when we talked, I said, "Well, is your head coach gone?" And you said that you're not sure. Well, now we find out that he is definitely gone. That McCarthy is no longer the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
McCarthy.
Do you put
Oh, he got fired today?
When?
Did he get fired today?
Oh. The
No,
rumor
he
I was going to
was
say that. What are you talking about? Hey, you're saying how you got me all excited.
He's
the
not-
rumor
he's not-
was. Well,
There's
listen,
going to be some
according
changes.
according
No.
to Adam Schefter, sources close to the Cowboys say that the meeting went bad and that McCarthy's probably going to be gone.
No,
So
he's not
that's-
gone.
don't blame me, but blame Schefter for that. That's what he said. So anyway,
Well,
Adam Schefter's making a lot of bad calls lately.
Yeah, he has. He's not going.
All right.
What happened is first of all, you have to compliment Green Bay. They played a heck of a game. They outcoached them. What Dallas has been getting away with is playing basically a nickel defense with those safeties. Green Bay saw this. Aaron Jones has had success against the Cowboys, and they didn't have. People don't realize, and I didn't realize how important a guy like Van Der Esch was. And how important it was. They fired a linebacker coach, a real linebacker coach last year, George Edwards,
Yes.
who's in Tampa Bay. And he understood. And they're schematically, they didn't line up properly against those offenses. And that's
Well, no,
what
you
happened.
you didn't have a big linebacker in there. And when you ran the ball, every time you put go ahead. Good.
And then when the fronts, what's happening is they're getting two guys in the same gap. That's a critical error. You saw it in their alignment. They didn't align properly to what Green Bay was doing. And they tried to play zone. They're not a zone team. They're a man team. And they tried to play zone against them. And Jordan Love, he just ate them up.
Well, why would a defensive coach that has been, pretty much they sing the praises of him almost every game in the beginning of the year. What happened, Jim? I mean, why didn't he make those adjustments, during the game,
That's the $1 million question. He should have had the adjustments that if this happened, this is how we adjust. And it might have been because of personnel. Because like I said, they have Damon Clark, I think it is his name. They have one guy that's a true linebacker. The other ones were safeties. And that's the problem. He might have couldn't adjust because he didn't have the personnel that allowed him to adjust. I would have put Micah Parsons in a will position, a weak side linebacker, and then put bigger linemen up front.
Yeah. Right. And you're right, Jason. They were playing off the wide receivers. So
Exactly.
Jim, if McCarthy is let go, if he's fired,
He won't
is
be
it
let
Bill
go.
Belichick's team?
No.
All right.
But he won't be let go. Jerry's going to give him next year is going to be a huge year for him. And that's what he does. He's not let go. I'm telling you. Adam Schefter doesn't have a clue how Jerry operates.
All right.
Adam
I mean,
Schefter
I
shock value. It's more shock value.
all right, maybe so. Maybe so. I know he's been, most of the time he's on the money when he calls something, Jim. Most of the time he is. So we'll see what happens over there. So let's talk a little bit with Sonia here. She hasn't got a chance to talk too much. She's she's a member of that NFC South, and a little bit about the Tampa Bay game against the Eagles. Well, how surprised were you that Tampa Bay? I mean, we thought that Philadelphia would. Most of us thought Philadelphia would lose, but we didn't think they were going to get stomped on by Tampa Bay.
Yeah, so thanks for the opportunity to finally speak. The toilet bowl of the NFL, my entire division, was a cat fight with the exception of my Panthers for the top of the division. I thought because Philly had been playing inconsistently and had in fact lost 6 of their last 7 games, that it was a good chance they would lose to Tampa. But like you said, I didn't expect it to be the way it was. After all, Baker was playing with bruised ribs and an injured ankle as well. I think they said it was sprained. But Baker normally plays with a compression sleeve kind of on his upper body anyway. He didn't look injured to me, despite taking a couple of big hits. He got up and kept it moving. I think it came down to it's playoff time. It's a different caliber. It's almost like all of these playoff teams are 0-0 when they start, because it's all in and nothing from the past matters. And I think even though Philadelphia did bring that same energy they brought, I think they really did underestimate Tampa. I think they felt like, okay, it's just Tampa. They're at the bottom of the entire NFL for all intents and purposes because of the division. And I just think they got out-coached. I think I made that comment earlier on you and Jack's show this morning. They got out-coached and outplayed across the entire board. Jalen Hurts was sitting to himself. He looked like he was detached from the team. And I always talk about the mental of a team. If you have lost your mental, especially in the quarterback, you have lost the game before you even take the field. So with the combination of how Philadelphia was already playing and the fact that Tampa is on a mission to basically prove the world wrong at this moment, that, yeah, we came from a bad division, but we're here and we belong here. I think that's what it comes down to. Now, I do not see them getting past the Lions. I do not see that at all. But just to know that they advanced past the wild card is very advantageous to that organization and to Todd Bowles. So kudos to him.
Yeah, I think Todd Bowles will have his job. I think Baker Mayfield's back next year. I'm not too sure about Evans after those two big drops. Maybe he's starting to lose it a little bit. I mean, he's still a good receiver. Will be with any
Evans
team.
Was already he's already up for the end of his contract anyway. And in fact, there was some rumblings early on that the Panthers were interested in him because of I believe it was Bryce that was a big fan of his or that had a relationship with him and wanted to bring him to Carolina. So he did have two major drops, but sometimes we see that in players when, unfortunately, I just think they kind of give in or resolve when they know they're on their way out. Anyway, look at Kyle Shanahan, how he left the playbook at the airport when he's on his way already signed and sealed with San Francisco and left the Falcons hanging in the Super Bowl. So I just feel like it's the same way. Unfortunately, some players and coaches just don't give their all when they know they're on their way out regardless.
I don't know if it's that. I think, it's just sometimes it happens. I mean, you see it with great receivers. Some day they have off days, they have off plays, but they find a way to come back. I think Mike Evans will be fine. Look how good Diggs is. And he might have a couple of bad plays, but then he comes back and has great plays. And that's the same thing. CeeDee Lamb, he didn't start off well, but he finished well.
Dak was all in CeeDee's face in that game. You could tell he was livid a couple of times with CeeDee.
But Jim, CeeDee and Diggs is a lot younger than Evans is right now. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that he won't work with another team.
I think Evans can help a team win. And I think he can help.
Yes, I agree with that.
And
I agree.
Tampa, and are they going to keep him? I don't know, but he'll help somebody win. He's still got some juice.
He still put up over 1,000 yards this year.
Yeah, what's his 10th or 11th time he's done it?
Every year he's been in the NFL.
Yes.
Exactly.
I think Mike Evans would actually be good over in Carolina.
Or
if you think about it, if you think about it, you got Bryce Young there, right? Okay, what is the best thing for a young quarterback to have?
A great receiver.
A great receiver who's a veteran, who's been around, who knows the game, who knows what's expected, knows how to play it at a high level.
Yes.
All right. And I think that personally, Carolina would be foolish not to go after Mike Evans.
Not only that, we're not sure if Adam Thielen is coming back or not. That was Bryce's go-to guy as his tight end. Thielen has been quoted as saying, no matter what happens, it's been real, basically. And that leads us to all believe he may not come back next season.
Sure.
The question is, will Michael Evans want to go to Carolina? That's the question there.
And that is a good point because he wants to probably be closer to winning championships than going to a team. So you make a good point there.
And right now we're uncertain. So I think
would
it would literally look at who we got as head coach. Now, if we bring Belichick or Dan Quinn there, that may look more attractive to him, and especially Jim Harbaugh. If we got the right coach, I think that could make Carolina look more attractive to anybody because, we're in a rebuild, but you get a solid veteran coach in there that has proven that they are championship caliber. And I think that he may reconsider, Jim.
That's a possibility, but Harbaugh's going. If he's going anywhere, he's going to the Chargers.
He's going to Chargers, yeah.
Or the Raiders.
He's got a house out there.
He's going to the West Coast.
So a couple side notes to Cleveland. The Cleveland Browns, they fire their looks like their running back coach, Stump Mitchell, and the tight end coach.
TC McCartney, that was the old man's son, grandson. Yeah.
And then they fired their offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Alex Van Pelt. I played with Alex in Buffalo.
And the Saints offensive coordinator was fired as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was there since 2009 too. That was kind of shocking.
Very true. Very true. Loyalty is not in the NFL too much anymore, Anthony. Nobody's loyal to anybody.
Not for long. That's what the NFL stands for. Not for long.
Exactly. So let's get to some Jets news. There is Jets. That's true. There is Jets news out there. Believe it or not. Let's see. One piece of good Jet news, of course, is Bill Belichick is not coaching the Patriots anymore. So that does help the Jets out a little bit. He's always been a thorn in their side since he's been there in one way or another, whether it's on the field or stealing draft picks or whatever. He's always kind of driving the spike a little bit farther than what he should. So that's a good thing for him, CJ. Also, Rodgers was back on the McCaffrey show after he was banned. I think McCaffrey said, "You're not coming on because of what happened with with the Kimball there." Yeah. So anyway, so he was back, but he was in the woods. So he came live from the woods. I guess he's going to go get in his hut, have some shrooms, contemplate next year. I don't know what he's doing in the woods right now, but that's where he was. So that's another piece of good news there for you. And your offensive tackle, Beckman, and Breece Hall kind of ripped into the Jets offensive line coach. So what do you think about those things happening, CJ?
The Jets offensive line coach should have been fired midway through the season because of the fact that not only with the offensive line coach, not only with the offensive line's attrition, but also with their level of play. You had guys that were playing, you had guys that were missing assignments, your quarterbacks were getting killed. So, and plus on top of it, your skill position players couldn't get the ball. Your running game was not existent. So, regardless of who it was back there, whether it was Zach Wilson, whether it was, Trevor Siemian, whether it was, I don't even care at this point. So, or even Tim Boyle, there is no one who would have been able to function behind this Jets offensive line for a full 17-game season. So, I personally think that for them to run it back with the entire coaching staff intact, there really needs to be some things looked at. And first and foremost, that offensive line needs to get redone. You need to get a different coach in there. You need to get somebody who is going to force these guys to play to the level that they're supposed to. Okay, and we actually talked about this a few weeks back. We don't have coaches that teach people the game anymore. And I remember you saying this, Mac. I remember Jim seconding this. And it's the truth. But now when you go and take a look at the teams that are all left standing right now in the NFL playoffs. What's the one thing about them that you can honestly say that is consistent throughout? The offensive line. Your offensive lines are playing well. They're all relatively healthy. And even if they're not relatively healthy, they're still playing at a somewhat functional, serviceable, high level. So this is what aggravates me as a Jets fan is if all of these other teams in the NFL can do this, what is the problem with the New York Jets that they can't do this?
I know what you're saying, CJ, but you got to find the right guy.
Right.
And the problem is finding the guy that fits what the coordinator's doing. And I know they didn't have Aaron Rodgers and things of that nature, but offensive line coaches are valuable. That's why they last so long. You see offensive line coaches coaching into their 70s. They're not easy to find.
But, I mean, you go and take a look at offensive line coaches. There's Bill Callahan, and then there's everybody else. You know, it's like, you need to tell me that Joe Douglas couldn't make a phone call to say, hey, Bill Callahan, you know, hey, we'd love for you to come and, you know, talk about we'd love for you to come to the Jets and fix our offensive line. Mm-hmm. You mean to tell me that Joe Douglas couldn't get on the phone, pay this guy $6 million, $10 million, whatever the hell he wants, give him whatever the hell he wants.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Callahan's coach.
Listen, I listen. The Jets' run game was not that bad. I mean, Breece Hall ran for a lot of yards this year, and especially to that left side. I think that's where Becton plays. I mean, they had a decent running game. CJ, they just couldn't throw the ball worth nothing.
Yeah,
right. Well, the problem is, again, if your offensive line needs to be multi-directional. You need to be able to have guys that can pass protect, and you also need to be able to have guys that can open up run lanes. That makes your run lane, that makes the running game more efficient. The NFL, it doesn't matter if it's becoming a passing league and this, that, and the third. Your run sets up your pass. If you don't establish a run game, right? That's
the problem, and he make a great point. Some of these gurus or geniuses, Mike McCartney is one of them. They do the pass to set up the run. They do it backwards.
It's the opposite.
That gets them because they didn't have the running game to control the game. I like Pollard as a person, but as a running back, he's not your toe. He's not going to carry the load. Mm-hmm. Bryce Hall can, and that's what you need to be successful.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the one thing that I want to see next year, besides the revamped offensive line, I really want to see the New York Jets three-headed monster. I want to see Breece Hall being showcased. I want to see Izzy Abanikanda. There was actually another kid that off the practice squad that they actually signed him to a contract. I don't remember the kid's name, but he's even really good. So it's like you have weapons in the backfield. Plus, you have a very competent fullback in Nick Bawden, and they need to do everything they can to hold on to him. Okay? There is absolutely no reason that if the New York Jets offensive line is even 16th in the league, and I'm talking middle of the road, serviceable, that this New York Jets team is currently constructed can be successful and actually make a playoff run.
And it depends on the health of Rodgers because he's going to help. He's going to help that offensive line.
He's not going to be the same coming back from that injury. We don't have anybody to kind of compare that to. And with his age, I think we're not going to see the same Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I had a defensive lineman, Greg Ellis, who came back from an Achilles injury, and he made the Pro Bowl. So there are that.
But different, but that's also a different position, Jim. So let's
can do. Watch, you see it because they're not putting as much pressure. They're stepping back.
Well,
making thing. Think about a deep.
We'll see. Let me give you a little. Let me get a little Giant news in here before we close out. And I want to talk a little bit about defense compared to offensive coaches too at the end of the show. So the biggest Giants news, of course, is Wink Martindale. Whether he's going to stay or go, he's still in the contract. There's $3 million on the table for him. I don't think he'll end up staying because of the.
He's already gone. They agree. Well,
he's not completely out.
Yeah, he's completely out.
I don't think so. I think
out. I'm positive. Look it up.
I know he left. I know he left the building, Jim. I don't. He's still. From what I understand, he's still in the contract. They gave him 1 year left.
He interviewed for a couple of jobs already. So he's out because they were thinking about some possibility.
Well,
so they made a deal. He didn't get the $3 million. They just let him go.
Right. All right. Well, that could be. I didn't see that. So, but anyway, besides that, you got Saquon Barkley, right? What are the Giants going to do with them? The Giants still have him under contract. So do they sign him for a couple of years? Do they franchise tag him, or do they just trade him and see what they can get for him at this point in his career? I know there's some teams that would love to get their hands on Saquon Barkley. I don't know what they'd be willing to give up for him, but all three things could happen. And I want to see what you guys think. I mean, you all know what Saquon Barkley is, a weapon. He's not just a running back out of the backfield, catches the ball, can block well. I mean, it's just a good back. So I would imagine the Panthers would definitely want Saquon Barkley, Sonia.
I was thinking.
I don't think the Buffaloes would. Yeah, I don't think Buffalo would turn him down. I don't think Dallas would turn him down. I don't think the Jets would turn him down. So what do you guys think? What do you think, Sonia? What do you think is going to happen to Saquon?
I think that he probably will go to another agency. I hope it's us, because we don't have any drafts. So maybe we could just do some swap arounds and get him, since he's a veteran. He'd be great. We need that type of weapon in our offense, and fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony, he's only 26 years old. He's still relatively young. He hasn't played every year, so he's still got some tread in the tires. He'd be a weapon for a Buffalo. Imagine him and Cook in the same backfield.
Yeah, I just think that Saquon Barkley would command a lot more. It's a similar situation as to Dalvin Cook going to the Jets. I mean, you just have too much of a workload already given to somebody else. Where are you going to find your carries? The same thing happened right now. We just had Leonard Fournette. We released him from our practice squad. We have our back situation set at this present moment.
I
How about Dallas, Jim?
Dallas, yes. He could do it, and he'd be.
I could see him in Dallas.
I could see him in Dallas, but what could Dallas get up to get him? And will they trade him in division? Normally, they don't trade guys like that in division. So that's what I say.
Very true. Very true. And you guys got basically Saquon Barkley there with Bryce Hill there, Breece Hall. Sorry, you got basically a Saquon Barkley there with him, and you do have a full running back room over there too.
Yeah, as much as the thought of having Saquon Barkley as a New York Jet does sound quite inviting, but the thing is, I would think that Saquon Barkley, if he's going to be dealt, he would want to be dealt to a contender. He would want to go and get a Super Bowl ring. So I could potentially see him going to maybe a Dallas, maybe possibly a Baltimore. But another place that I could also see him going is maybe to San Francisco to complement Christian McCaffrey, which would also take a lot of stress and workload. Or, believe it or not, and I know this is probably going to be like a out of left field, don't be surprised if Kansas City dips their toe in the water.
Makes sense.
Because you can platoon him with Ivan Pacheco, and you have another back who can actually catch passes out of the backfield. You can line up as a receiver. You can do a lot of misdirection. He does offer another layer of complexity to your offense, provided you use him properly. And plus, Andy Reid, come on now.
Yeah, I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Giants have done some dealings over the last few years, so maybe that's
what about Denver?
Potential there.
Denver's absolutely interesting, believe it or not, because it all depends on whether or not they're going to keep Russell Wilson as quarterback. I think
it looks like he's going to be cut more than likely. Is what I heard.
So let's just say in a vacuum, let's say that if Barkley were in fact to be traded to Denver, okay, and in a vacuum, Sean Payton decides he does want to keep Russell Wilson. You add a couple pieces to that offensive line, get another skill position player on the outside. You now could have a very, very functional offense, which could potentially be rather dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an upgrade for most teams, not all teams. You Eagles can't get every free agent, Chris. I mean, I know you guys want every free agent out there. You know, that's the Eagles are greedy. They're just greedy. They want everything. So let me get into
Barkley
the
would not go to
offense
the Eagles.
versus
I don't think he would get dealt in.
the defensive.
Like you said, they would never deal
I
in,
don't
in
think
the,
so either.
in
So
the division.
let's talk. I don't think so. So let's talk a little bit about defense versus the offensive coordinator, head coach kind of thing, right? So in the beginning of the year, we all thought, well, every team wants to have the offensive head coach. Miami has it, right? And all these teams like Sirianni and McCarthy, and all of a sudden we kind of retract here, and we're seeing that the defensive head coaches are the ones that are in the championships and are the ones that are most sought after as far as NFL coaches right now. Bill Belichick, Harbaugh is an offensive coach, but he knows the defensive side. His brother is going to maybe go to the Super Bowl, defensive head coach. You've got the Titans.
Team.
I mean, not the Titans.
John was
the Texans. Well, right. The Texans, though, Jim. I mean, that's a defensive head coach.
Ryan, DeMarco.
And
So you're seeing that
Dan
Todd Bowles and obviously
right.
Dan Quinn should never get another head coaching job in the NFL.
Dan Quinn was interviewed by the Panthers today.
Yeah, he was, and he was.
Please
Of course he was.
pray that they do not hire him. Please.
Brady, the Buffalo is another defensive head coach. I mean, these are again, it's showing you defense.
No, Brady was an offensive
At the end of the year is
Joe Brady was he was the quarterback coach.
Yeah, and he was at Carolina, and then he was at LSU with Joe Burrows.
Yep.
So.
Right. But he ran Buffalo's defense as the head coach too.
Leslie
Frazier
Frazier was I believe for head coaching vacancies too, and that's the former defensive coordinator for the Bills. So there's another example.
I would love for Leslie Frazier to get another head
Very
coaching
true.
job.
So I mean,
old man Leslie.
Yeah, I know Leslie for
Salah,
years.
Great guy, great coach too.
He's a good guy.
The Jets head coach again, defensive head coach. All I'm saying is that defense still. What?
The Lions defensive coordinator and San Fran's defensive coordinator probably head coaching candidates too. After the playoffs.
I would agree.
Here's a sleeper name I want you
We're
guys
interviewing
to
him too.
Aaron Glenn. That's a sleeper name. Aaron Glenn.
Yes.
I like Aaron,
yes.
but look at
he will be within the next 3 years. He will be an NFL head coach.
Yeah, maybe so. And then you got the offensive coordinators like Bieniemy. He may be out of a job. I mean, listen, the only point I'm trying to make with all this is that defense is still the thing that wins the games near the end of the year, and a good defensive head coach. All you need is a good offensive coordinator, and you can. Yes, and you got yourself a team. So anyway, folks, incredible amount of comments, likes, and shares and loves. I thank you all for tuning in. Pags checked out early. Be sure to check him out after the show on the NFCE
Pags checked out a long time ago.
Yes, he did. And followed by after that, you have, of course, J&B Talking Shop at 8:00. You got Sonia with her show, All Things Football from a Lady's Perspective, coming on after that show at 9:00. So we're running all night here. So stay on Roku channel. Thank you, Anthony, for coming in. We love having you in here talking about the Bills. Then, of course, CJ, always a pleasure having you here. And I'm proud of you. You didn't swear as much as you normally do. So I'm
CJ's my man.
He's going to be on with me tonight at 9.
He's my guy.
He's going to be on with me tonight at 9.
I can't.
Well, maybe he's saving the swears for your show. Hopefully,
No.
All right. Hey guys, thanks. You guys, thanks again. Have a good one, and everybody have a good Satan night. Stay with Roku. Have a good one, folks.
All right.